Ever since I was a little girl, I always had my fantasy worlds and things that I was obsessed with. I would always find my new hyperfixation in the form of, be it creepypasta or Sonic the Hedgehog. We all know. But one thing that continues to come into my life every now and again is the wonderful and cheerful, full of fantasy and thrill, is Child of Light. Me and my sister have played this game plenty of times, and today I think it is time for me to make yet another love letter to Child of Light. So let's just begin, and let me introduce you to the wonderful game who will continue to have my heart, and that I will continuously be replaying every few years or so. The game's story takes place in the fictional land of Lemuria. Aurora, a child who wakes up in Lemuria after dying from a mysterious illness, must bring back the sun, the moon, and the stars. They are being held captive by the Queen of the Night, and you're gonna need to bring them back in order to return home to your dying father, the Duke, or the King. I don't really remember. Is he a Duke or a King? Let me check. Child of Light's gameplay has the attributes of a side-scroller with a lot of role-playing elements, such as leveling up to increase stats over time. Battles with enemies use a sort of turn-based system, like for combat, similarly to something you would find in Final Fantasy or even Baldur's Gate, honestly. The player can control up to 2 characters during battle and swap these 2 with other characters that you have in your roster. Up to 3 enemies can appear during battles, and if the player approaches the enemy from behind, the battle becomes a surprise strike, giving the player an advantage. If the enemy, however, approaches the player from behind, it becomes an ambush, thus giving the enemy an advantage. Our lovely pal, Ignicolas, is a huge helping hand within the game. He helps us both in and out of combat, opening chests that we can't quite reach or just we can't really open. It's amazing, and I will be getting into all of that, but for now I digress, and I will be getting into specific points. Okay, so first of all, I want to talk a little bit about the environment in this game. I have rarely seen such an immersive, beautiful little world that looks similarly to mine. Not really! I mean, when I walk into the forest, it doesn't actually look like this, so surprise, surprise. But it is just so well done, and the color schemes from in the different areas just really do complete everything about it. The lighting is beautiful and extremely immersive. It's just, and I think that makes a lot of sense considering that you are a Child of Light, right? So there's a lot of emphasis on that, intentionally or not. It looks beautiful and I am absolutely obsessed with it. I buy that every area is real and I am just as immersed every time I get to a new area of the map. I'm just excited to see what it'll look like. I mean, now I know what they all look like, clearly. But in my first playthroughs, I was always excited to just see what comes next and who are my next enemies, because they are also relatively themed. So that is really awesome, but I will be getting into that. Now, I'm not gonna get into every single monster there is to mention, because we have a few. We definitely do. But I think that it's worth mentioning that they all have their unique designs, and it just really fits in well in this beautiful fantasy world of Lemuria, honestly. I think that it makes sense to have variants of the monsters, like the rock, for example, where he can be like a water rock and a fire rock and just a normal rock. I don't know why I'm so obsessed with that. Actually, I do, because me and my sister dubbed him Carl, and we love him. And that's all I have to say on that matter, honestly. But sometimes there are also these bosses of sorts, mini bosses, I guess you could say, and they're great. I think they're a great little break, because the tensions seem a bit more high, and you also can easily die. That was a rhyme, you know? Lemuria. That's how they roll there. Anyway, I think that they're really good because it feels more intense than just the normal fights where you gain more XP. And that's a little tip I'll give to people who has never played before. I don't think it's a good idea to avoid the fights, even though it might seem tedious that you have to do it. But you know how it works. You have to get XP, so that means that you also have to fight the monsters regardless if you want to or not. It's a bit of a grind, but I really enjoy the grind. I think Child of Light, in that regard, is both a game you can play like a little bit idly. Like, yes, intense stuff happen and there are definitely puzzles, which I will be getting into as well. But it's also just sometimes you have to grind for XP. If you want to be strong, that is. Of course you can do it without it, but I prefer to just become very OP and very strong, so I definitely farm the XP to a certain extent. But you don't have to do that, but I'd love to do that. And the fights might be a bit hard if you don't do that. But it's doable. It's definitely doable. One of my absolute favorite things about Child of Light is the way that the dialogue works. It's just so adorable that we have these rhymes going on. Like, they rhyme on their sentences, and then we have Rubella, who's like the only one who doesn't really do it, and Nicholas gets so mad. He's like, I think you meant this because you have to rhyme, girly pop. Like, why are you not rhyming? But it's just so fun and such a nice, neat little touch. It does really just remind you of like a fairy tale book expanding and just, yeah, rhyming on the end of the sentences, and it's so cute. I really do love it. Also, I cannot move on before saying that I absolutely adore the mountain. He is so sweet. There's just something about a gentle giant, and this game's got plenty, like I just said, but this guy is just so kind, and yes, I will help you with your heart. Please, please let me do it again. I will play this game over just to save this guy's heart over and over and over again. What a kind mountain man. I love him so much. Protect him at absolutely every cost. I will not be repeating myself. Protect this mountain. Okay, I just repeated myself. Damn it! I really want to get into the characters in this part of the video because this is one of the parts that make Child of Light just so special and different, I feel like. I mean, characters are always and always will be just a good part of any game, I get it. But they are just so cute and adorable, so let's just take it from the top. I will only be talking about the characters in the main crew of the protagonists, not the antagonists for now. Aurora is just so adorably confident and stubborn and denies anyone who wants to call her a princess of Lemuria. It's just like, I'm not a princess, Aurora will do. Like, don't call me that, I am not her. But she's still just so strong and full of willpower and, yeah, stubborn, like I said, and just full of love and care for other people, but with a little bit of a sassy tongue, which I do appreciate. She is a role model for sure. Then we have Rubella, who is our I suppose you could say comic relief, which is quite interesting considering that she is in fact a jester, so that would make sense, right? I mean, she's just so fun and nice, and like I said before, she insists on not rhyming at the end of sentences, even though, and she even like is low-key meta about it and is like, what is it called? And then she said something completely different than what you thought she was just about to say, which is absolutely hilarious. It's honestly one of my favorites, which is probably kind of an unpopular opinion, but I love Finn. I think Finn is great. He's such a scaredy cat, and I just love his powers. I think that's what drives me to him mostly. Like, I really love him in combat elements because he often has an upper hand on some enemies. Those that are vulnerable to water, lightning, and fire, that is. So some of them, it doesn't really matter because they're mostly vulnerable to light or stuff like that, but that's okay. He's still very cool in my opinion. I will also out myself for being kind of stupid for a second because I think it's funny. When me and my sister played, I said that one of his attacks is called Monsoon, like, you know, a huge amount of water. I think it's like a tsunami. It's a lot of water, right? Like, even now I don't know. Monsoon, is it a lot of rain? It's a lot of water in some capacity. And I just said moonsoon or something. Just wrong. And my sister was like, do you know what that is? And clearly, till this day, I still don't know what that is, so right. Anyway, that's Finn. I think he's a wonderful scaredy cat who actually is braver than he thinks he is. Then there's Nora, our older stepsister, and she's a traitor! And I also don't sorry. And I also don't like her powers very much. Like, I don't really care about, but it's probably because I'm way more aggressive within gameplay, so I usually just go for people who are quite strong or can defend rather than just like moving time forward or backwards, because I feel like that's mostly what she does, but I guess I can't really speak on that because I don't use her as much. I do like her design though. I think it's really cute, but man, we could have been sisters and you betrayed me. What the hell? Then there's Robert, and I don't usually use Robert, the little sneaky mouse. That's what he is. He's a sneaky mouse in combat much, but I do think he is quite adorable and his story is fun. He's just a little sneaky adventurer who tries to win the heart of a very fancy mouse, which we all know is hard. They're just so hard, those mouse ladies. But yeah, he's also very, like, entitled to her and stuff, but it is still a fun little story he's got going on. Then there's Rubella's brother, Tristus. And I think Tristus is awesome, especially because of his name, honestly, which I know is maybe not the point, but Trist in Danish means sad. So I think that's why he's also called Tristus. So it makes a lot of sense when you're Danish or whatever, but I really like that about him. I also do enjoy his pessimism, even though it is, in fact, pessimistic. But I think that's fun, especially in contrast to Rubella's always optimistic view on things that are going on. Yeah, he's a great contrast, and I know it's not always easy to find him, but when he's found, he is nice to have. I don't use him much because he's basically just like a Nora mixed with Rubella, so I don't use him much in combat, but I still think he's great, and I love his design too. Now, I'm gonna try my best to say this beautiful guardian's name. Oengus, I think is the thing. But I really love him. He is just the definition of a gentle giant and a very proud and prideful creature, but definitely one that you would want by your side because he is strong, extremely strong, and just very good in combat situations. And I adore the like mask design and just the armor and the like turquoise hair he's got going on with the freaking like horns and stuff. We're getting crazy. I really like the way he looks. It's both adorable and intimidating at the same time. Then we have Gen. Gen is also so cute. Also quite feisty with a very sad background to her. But she is, just like I said, feisty and still has a lot of, like, you wouldn't want to pick a bone with her because she's got it going on. She is smart and articulate and also has a bit of a silver tongue. I really do like her design and I wish we could see a lot more of her people, but sadly that is something of the past as of currently in Lemuria. And then we have the DLC character, the Golem. I really do like the Golem. I think he's really cute and I love a rock design. I don't know why. I guess I just always liked you, dude, and stuff like that. So I just think he's quite cute with his underbite and dino looking face with his six-pack and his big old hammer. I just think he is awesome and I think the DLC is worth purchasing because it's a cute little side story and his personality is also that of a gentle giant, so love the Golem, absolutely. Now, last but not least, we have Igniculus, which Igniculus is a little ball of sass, a little light ball of sass, honestly. He just wants to get this stuff done and he knows what he wants and he's powerful and helps you to the very bitter end, just loyalty in a little blue drop, you must say. Who wouldn't want a little Igniculus in their lives? Now, when talking about the creatures just before now, I also want to talk a bit about the villains. I guess the creatures, like the evil creatures, are villains in a sense, but I also think that they're just a little corrupted because of the darkness. But the Queen of Darkness, or whatever is her name, I don't even care to find out because F her! She is really epic and she's your stepmother, of course, which I think is really cute. Or, I mean, that sounds really bad. What I mean is that I think it's a classic fantasy element, like, you know, from Cinderella and stuff like that. The evil stepmother. And I know that that's like a dumb stereotype and it's not real often on anyway, like in real life. But I still think it's fun because this just takes you back to your childhood fairy tales and makes a new one, I feel like. Even though, once again, I didn't grow up with Lemuria or Aurora, or I guess I did in a sense, because I played it when I was quite young the first time. Anyway, I'm digressing totally, but I'm just saying that it's fun to just encompass this fantasy world that brings back all classics and is just unapologetically itself, with a very, I guess, multi-dimensional villain, actually, because she doesn't just want Lemuria in that sense, and she's quite manipulative and stuff like that, and powerful too. And she actually does want you to join her, I think. Or maybe I'm just speaking out of my ass right now. It's been a little while since I played this lovely game. But yeah, it's just, she's great, and I think it makes a lot of sense that you think that she's good in the beginning, or actually you kind of don't, because the Duke misplaces his heart, they say specifically, which I think is amazing. So a little bit of foreshadowing didn't do nobody no harm, so I think that's great. One part of Child of Light that I also think is a little unique, but maybe I just haven't played enough of these types of games, but I really enjoy the Oculi, or Oculi, I really don't know how you say that, but Oculi I will keep saying. These little emeralds and stones that you can combine to get different awesome stuff. Like, you can get water resistance, or you can also get the rubies in specific, I think, or like an HP like booster, and you can also craft a whole bunch of other stones that give you all kinds of awesome benefits. The princess stone is what you're gonna want to strive for. Some people don't think it's worth it. I think it's worth it just for the thrill of it, honestly. And usually I hate a bit of math. I really do not partake in the maths often on. If I can be freed of it, I will, absolutely. But I think there's something really enticing and awesome about learning the different combinations and what you can get out of them. And you can put these stones on every single character's weapon, defense, and then you have such like a ring that's like an extra bonus thing. So I think that's really awesome. It really adds something to the element, and you can also switch them out. So sometimes you'll be in a situation where a water, like extra water damage on your like melee attacks might be really good because you're in like a fire place where the creatures are made out of fire, so therefore you automatically get a benefit with these oculi, and I think it's so awesome and a great idea. And I really do enjoy it, and I think that if people grab this game, you should try to focus on that a little bit as well. Like, don't neglect it, because it can make your gameplay so much better, and you can just get so much stronger, and I think it's such a cool little element that's in there as well. One thing that I cannot go without talking about, I feel like in almost every love letter, is the soundtrack. The soundtrack of In Child of Light is so damn beautiful. I don't know how else to describe it. It just is angelic and dramatic at times. Like, when you're fighting, it's like, like, you can really, like, it's too intense sometimes. I'm personally a person who, the first time I play a game, I will definitely have the sound on, but when I'm very accustomed to the game, like in Stardew Valley, for example, or something, I don't need it, so that I will be probably watching YouTube videos on the side or something like that. I think a lot of people are like that. I digress once again, but I think that I really do want the music when I play Child of Light, because it just adds this atmosphere that's really amazing. And like I said, dramatic, and you just really feel the tension, and the fight is on and popping, even though you know the mechanics and everything by that point, but it's just it really adds some tension that is really amazing, and the music is also just angelic and sweet, and yeah, no, it could make a grown man cry sometimes, honestly. If you know, you know, absolutely. The puzzles in the game are also simple yet complicated. You get it, yet you have to think. I think the first time around where you play the game, you're like, This is quite like, what? Like, what am I doing here? But they're not that hard. Sometimes, or often on actually, they're like time-based, which I kinda hate, not gonna lie, I kinda hate that, but that's only because I just get a bit anxious when I'm being timed in a way. But I don't think it's bad. It's tolerable. And if I say it's tolerable, then you know it's not that bad, because like I just said, I absolutely usually hate things that are timed. But yeah, sometimes you really gotta think a little bit, but they're not too difficult. I think even the biggest like puzzle noobs will be able to do fine, because they're not that complicated. And you know what? I'm not opposed to you Googling if it's hard, so Google is your friend, okay? If you really can't crack it, just Google it. It's fine. Absolutely, I will not be judging you. Maybe other people will, but I will not. Certainly will not. So don't be afraid to Google it if you don't know how to proceed. The ending of the game is so adorable and just, what a good ending. Because it almost is like you're being read this bedtime story throughout the whole game, and then it ends, and it's like, now it's your turn, princess, to fall asleep and have a good sleep. That's not how it's phrased. I'm absolutely certain of that. I'm just blanking on how it's being said. But I just think it ties it together so well, and it's just adorable. And like I said, I enjoy a game that can give me a nostalgic feeling without me having played it in my actual childhood. I played this in my teenagehood, so I guess it's a bit different, right? But yeah, no, it just brought me right back to when my father, my duke, I guess, if you will, would like read bedtime stories for me, and then I would go to sleep. So that's really amazing, and I think that's an element of just, yeah, nostalgia, and the feeling of just childhood can bring you back in that moment. And I think that goes for both girls and guys. I don't even really think it's gendered. I think it's just really well done and just a beautiful game. Absolutely. But with all that being said, I hope you guys got a little bit of a view of why I really do love this game. I know it's one of my shorter love letters, but that does not mean that not as much love was put into it. I still love this game equally. But with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will hopefully see you in the next video. My cat also wants to say goodbye. Goodbye!